was abrupt, wasn't it? Folks, I don't know what happened last night. I think that after a given time, everything just went poof. It did. It went poof. It just blew up and went poof. That's okay. We got that rectified. That's an ongoing process, actually. Lord knows this month is going to be a very busy month. Folks, I'm going to share something with you real quick. One of the, I'm going to share something with you. I think you can handle it right now. I think you can, but I want to share something with you. Oh, a long time ago, for a couple times. And believe me, I'm trying to resolve this, but it's very important that we understand all things are spiritual, right? All things are spiritual. And in order for anyone to understand the nature of what's unfolding before them, you're going to have to understand that all things have an origin in the spirit. Here's what I mean by that. Do you guys remember in Genesis, in the book of Genesis, when God said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. You guys remember that? And let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. That's Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 through 15. I noticed something. He said, let them be they're for a reason. For signs and for seasons and for days and years. I ask you this. When he made those lights in the heavens, the firmament, the stars, and the things that we see, they convey a message, don't they? Don't they? When you see certain clusters together, you know that a certain season is near. Just like when you look at the weather, or when you look at the sky and things of that nature, they convey a message. What is that message? A sign, in fact, is a communicated message. It's what a sign is. A communication. A message. All right? All right? It's a message. There's a link lost, and it was lost in the time when the canon was put together, when it began to speak of, you hear words like luminary, which is a translated word, right? It's also used in the book of Genesis all the time. They just don't, it's not, luminary is not the word they use. But they within themselves obey the Father. They convey messages. If something is for a sign, it sends a message, correct? Let me ask you this. What sends a message? A messenger. A messenger sends a message. Right? Now, mankind, well, let's go further before I tell you this one. Let's go further. Did you notice in Revelation, at a very specific time, Lucifer saw that he was cast to the earth? That is so strange. Why didn't Lucifer know he was cast to the earth? How did he all of a sudden perceive himself as being cast to earth, and then he was enraged? Why? Prior to being cast to earth, what form was he? How can you perceive? How can you just come to yourself and say, I'm on earth? It means you were of a different nature. It means you were of a different nature. Lucifer was of a different nature. So the messengers are of a different nature. Prior to his falling, these are clues as to the very nature of things. How can an angel hear God? Because an angel, that word angel means messenger. A messenger is spirit. Can you see spirit? No. Can you see a physical manifestation of the spirit? Yes, you can. The manifestation of a spirit is the embodiment of a spirit. When the Word was made flesh, that flesh embodied the Word. His name is Jesus of Nazareth. You are encapsulated with the flesh. You yourselves are not flesh. You're spirit. The flesh puts limitations on how you perceive spiritually, unless you break through it, right? Right? In the garden, Adam ate of the tree, and Eve ate of the tree of good and evil. Prior to that time, all things were permissible. Prior to eating of that tree of good and evil, there was no good and evil. They did not perceive evil, therefore they did nothing that was wrong. Right? When they ate of the tree of good and evil, now they had to weigh everything by balances. Everything. When you weigh things by balances, you find yourself not wanting to do certain things. Then you become tasked in the mind, and sin surely does enter into the flesh. That's why Cain did what he did. Adam and Eve were spirit, encapsulated in vessels made for the earth. Prior to having their minds open to things of the earth, they truly did have dominion. They truly were spiritual. Likely glorified in the flesh, able to behold the Father. But they had a form change like Lucifer did. Form change. Just like Lucifer did. Just like some of the fallen angels who manifested and made it with women. They too had a different form. Their sin was not taking the form of anything. Their sin was mating with women because it was not sanctioned by the living God. They abandoned their posts. You know, in the Word of God it says, in the end of days, the angels will abandon their posts and creation will go out of order. There are many readings from the patriarchs that tell you about the planets. Let me ask you a question. How many planets are in our solar system? How many? Anybody know how many planets are in our solar system? How many noticeable planets are in the solar system? Now, not this New Age stuff like Pluto, right, and Ceres and things. No, we have Mercury, that's one, right? We have Venus, that's two. We have Earth, that's three. We have Mars, that's four. We have Jupiter, that's five. We have Saturn, that's six. We have Uranus, that's seven. And we have Neptune, that's eight. Those are your notable planets, ones that can be observed, right? If you take away Earth, how many planets do you have left? 7. You have 7 planets. I'm going to give you a scenario, something that I personally have been working on. And yes, I have access to some very powerful computing systems. And I'm going to show you something about the vials, just how serious they are. Vials of wrath, or the bowls of wrath in certain translations. But I want to show you about them. When the first angel poured out his vial upon the earth, there fell a noisome and grievous sword, men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them who worshipped the beast, you know, they had these swords. Right? You go all the way down, and you see a vial that's poured upon the sun. Power is given unto it to scorch men with fire. Right? Men were scorched with great heat. For a long time, planets have been dormant, not doing anything that we can notice. All that's about to change. All these years of mankind observing the planets, they have been stationary, not doing anything. But I tell you, all things have a purpose. All things have a purpose. Sometimes we make a mistake not realizing the truth of the Spirit, which is this. One who resides in the Spirit, who is a direct creation of God, can take the form that God demands, that God orders, but they can also change their form. But they do a function. We're studying the book of Enoch, and there's some very interesting things in the book of Enoch, and I know a lot of people don't read the book of Enoch. But do you read the book of Jubilees? Do you read Jasher? If you did, you'll understand that the planets are not simply planets. Mankind would have you believe they're just out there and they're dead. They're not dead. They're reserved for a purpose. One day they will fulfill that purpose. There's 7 planets that can be observed from Earth. Let me give you an example of something. Jupiter. It's funny, we have 7 planets, and we know that in the ancient days, they equated these planets with their little gods, and they began to worship them. But it is because they saw what the planets can do. We have not seen it, not in our lifetime. Everything has been stable. The pillars have been set up, not moved. In this time of grace and mercy, everything was set up for Christ. Things were set up not to scare us to death. But these planets are a little more than what you think. Let me give you another example. Not all the moons of Jupiter, but a lot of the moons of Jupiter have geometric weld marks around the rim. Now we all know that in natural formations, geometric or if you had pentagon shapes, more like rivets, right? That's not going to form naturally on any planet around its rim based on a rotation. Certainly when the rotation does not match. When the rotation doesn't match the raised layers where it looks like it was welded or something in a very artistic type weld. It's almost like some of these moons are vaults, like they're prisons. There are a lot of prisons in the asteroid belt. Jupiter has moons, but I tell you this, in the asteroid belt, there are things larger than the moon in the asteroid belt. They look more like cauldrons. Our moon. It is impossible that our moon has not shifted and gone out of its place. It should have been gone a long time ago. But it's making micro adjustments all the time. There are different jets that release on the dark side of the moon from time to time. We can't see them, but nevertheless, they still do release. They measure the moon's distance with lasers all the time. Satellite networking indicates that the moon is making micro adjustments all the time. Don't think in terms of artificial or real. Don't do that. But everything has a purpose. You see, the fact is, man would have you believe that there's a natural formation to the solar system, and they observed other solar systems, and they had to throw all of that out. They didn't believe a gas giant like Jupiter could be in the place of Mercury and survive. That's wrong, too, because they found countless systems where Jupiter-sized planets exist with gaseous clouds too close to a sun, much larger, much more powerful than ours. It should have burned up, but it's not. Why? Because all these things are purposed. They're beginning to find out that physics as they know it changes in various parts of existence. What applies here is not universal, and this is what they're finding out. There are 7 notable planets who will perform their function in due time. In due time. Mercury is one of the most deadliest objects we have in the solar system. Mercury is a sun killer. Mercury is a bunch of iron wrapped up in a ball so close to the sun. Do you know what would happen if Mercury was ever dispersed and went into the sun? It would cause the sun to begin to fry planets, a reaction of iron introduced into fusion itself. All of them have a function. Why do we have such order? When they know that around, give or take a few years, that there's some other components to our solar system. I call it the twin. Do you know that Venus, despite the stories you've heard, Venus is responsible, and we sent probes to Venus because of this. A lot of bacteria and viruses come from Venus. Its hidden name that's known right now is called the planet of plagues. You guys aware of that? That's what they call it right now. The planet of plagues. We're very careful not to allow any probes that have ever been orbiting Venus to ever come back to Earth. They call that the planet of plagues. Mars is full of a type of dust, isn't it? Most of the impacts and most of the dust that we have here on Earth came from where? They see it all the time. The same chemical makeup as those things found on Mars. How in the world does stuff from Mars get to Earth? Don't tell me a rock hit Mars just recently, as in like the past year or 3 years. And so we get new objects coming from Mars that have the same makeup as Mars. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that this is a celestial pool table. Don't tell me that either. I'm telling you, things are purposed. You're very purposed. Something fell between Mars and Jupiter. There was another planet that did exist. Another object that did exist. It fell. It was destroyed. Let's say it fell. All those things that do not as God commands will be destroyed. God said so. The word is luminaries. That's used in the book of Enoch. The language changed in the Torah. That's why I mentioned last night about Orion and the Pleiades system. It was mankind who made Orion a constellation. Do you know why the Egyptian pyramids match Orion? They don't match Orion, because that constellation is not Orion. See, they have changed so much how sneaky they are. Let me ask you a question. If you had to hide something, that is one of the deepest secrets, how would you hide it in plain sight? I'll tell you how. You rename it. If you rename anything and you educate folks about the renaming, they will build their own reality. They will come up with every plausible reason based upon Earth observations as to why it's been like that forever. But see, they already have charts of the sky from long ago that do not match the constellations we see. They already know that Jupiter and Saturn at one point was very close to the Earth. Do you not know there was a time when Saturn filled up half the sky on Earth, and it was documented here on Earth? The planets were so close that they saw the electrical discharge from one to another. How did they get back to their respective positions? How is everything so stable? We make a mistake thinking in the realm of reality, trying to make everything fit in the context. This reality is where God has sent us to reflect and learn of Him. This reality is soon to be over, and all things will be revealed. And when they are revealed, there's going to be some sad faces. Prior to that revealing, ladies and gentlemen, because there will come a day when you see very large objects in the sky at nighttime, beautiful and deadly at the same time. Things are only deadly in the solar system. They're only deadly because we live in these frail bodies made for Earth. Remember, you're going to have a form change. I guess if you desire to, you can go have a vacation in the sun itself if you desire to. You won't be in this mortal flesh. Nor will anything of God's creation harm you. You're limited right now. Your flesh is limited that you may learn limitations. Your flesh is so easily penetrated that you may understand pain. See, when you understand pain, compassion builds up in your heart. You understand that you shouldn't inflict pain upon anybody. Some people say, well, why did God make us with such pain, stuff falling apart? So that you can be compassionate. Just think of yourselves as royalty in training. How would you ever show true compassion if you're not acquainted with pain? How could you ever embrace anybody and tell them it's going to be okay unless you yourselves had felt hopeless and you made it through? How could you stand and be a parent of anybody saying nothing is going to hurt you unless you have been hurt? You had to be exposed to all the bad things in life that you may come acquainted with them and make a choice. You see, making a choice in this world is to experience both good and bad. And the truth of who you are will always make a choice based upon what you're drawn to. For a long time, the Lord has been growing you. You just didn't know quite how. The truth has been before you always. The truth is always presented. And all truth is designed that the wise do not see all truth because they count themselves as wise. You've walked through the lessons. You can utilize them right now. But it is the key of the gospel of Jesus Christ that opens your eyes. When you begin to walk in love itself, which is to say, I understand now. You begin to see many things. Your flesh will even change. Because you're free. You know, when you wear shackles, they can go into the flesh and become very uncomfortable. I remember when I first joined the service, we'd put our rucks on, right? First thing that would hurt is your back, your lower back, and your shoulders. You had to get used to carrying that rucksack. Your feet would hurt because of the boots. Over the course of a year or so, you stopped feeling the rucksack. After 4 years, you'd forget you have the rucksack on. It becomes just like a pocket. And we're talking about a rucksack that's loaded down with 175, 200 pounds of equipment. It becomes nothing. It becomes a utility for you. It's no longer a burden. It's just something you have. Well, the flesh is the same way. When you come to Christ and you begin to learn the truth, the flesh is a burden at first. Then you begin to defeat the flesh by not responding to it. Over the course of time, if you grow, the flesh becomes nothing. And to walk away from sin is so easy. It's not difficult. It's not a challenge. That's when you begin to fight the good fight of faith on behalf of others. You really do fight for them. See, because once you have reached a point of maturity, you can then help somebody else to reach a point of maturity. You understand that you gained the understanding and wisdom that you had through many trials. That means you'll never seek to stop a trial in somebody else's life, nor will you be foolishly compassionate upon that trial, saying, well, Lord, just take them out of there. Oh, they're suffering so bad, because you know you don't have the solution. God does. Once you become a student of the Word of God, a student of the Word of God is one who reads to apply. Somebody who reads the Word of God just reads it, but a student lives by it. Once you become a student, you begin to find answers. Once you find answers, your spiritual eyes are opened. Once your spiritual eyes are opened, you can understand the flight and the plight of your brother or your sister. You can understand the process. The difference is this. If you saw a person sitting on the street and their leg is wounded and nobody's coming to help them, out of your compassion, you might run to them and say, hey, do you need any help? But you didn't see what led to that person doing that, did you? Right? That's when you can't see the whole situation. You see a person who needs help, don't you? So you run to help them. Here's wisdom and understanding and discernment. You realize the person just robbed a bank and a police officer shot him in the leg after he killed 6 police officers. He's standing around the corner having lost his whatever he stole, having lost his weapon. He's sitting there angrily. You look at him. And then you let that process take its course. You're not trying to save his flesh, are you? Because you don't act with emotion. You're going to make sure he's not armed and can't hurt anybody else, but you're not going to run to his rescue. Because you understand the whole situation. That's how blind passion can be. You can see someone hurt, you don't know why they're hurt. And what I'm saying is this. When somebody is hurting, it's not for you to rescue them. You need to understand the process so you can be help to them. You can't help that guy who just robbed a bank by helping him out with this wound. That's not how you help him. His help is to feel the pain he inflicted. His help is to be reunited with hurtfulness and pain and sorrow so that he will not impose that pain and sorrow upon anybody again. You see, the one who inflicts pain is the one not acquainted with pain. Once you feel pain, once you've dealt with it enough, you will not inflict it. Once you become free from all pain through the truth of Christ, you'll assist all who are in pain. You tend not to give them advice, but you only tend to encourage them to Christ. And you don't do so by your timing. You always feed a person based upon what they can handle only. What happens if you put too much food in a baby's mouth? You'll choke the baby. You could potentially kill a baby that way, right? When a person needs assistance, they can need assistance, but unless they ask for it, you still can't do anything. When they ask for it, it's with great patience. When they ask for it, you can feed them. If you begin to work with people like this, they will request certain types of food because they'll want to know things. They'll talk to you and tell you their whole lives. Mayor, if someone is cold, they didn't ask anything, right? Mayor says, but Mike, if you know someone is cold, I know a lot of cold people. There's a reason they're cold. But you still have to wait until they ask you. You can't force feed them. If you force feed a person, you place them in a position for them to make a yes or no response right there, Johnny, on the spot. You provoke them. Satan elicits a response. We don't do that. Satan will press a person into a corner and cause them to do weird things. We don't do that. With patience, we do work. See, to have patience is to wait. Let me give you a secret to patience. If you say you have lost patience with a person, you're just simply saying you don't want to take the time with that individual anymore. In other words, what you have to do is much more important than that person. And I can tell you this, if a Christian ever thinks that way, then what they are doing is going to fail because that person should have been first. Anyway. For us to imply in our thoughts, well, I'm going to have patience with this person, means you've already placed yourself above them. The day you look at a person as precious and important to the Father because they still have life is the day you truly have patience. That's the day you truly lay down your life for somebody else. That is the day you truly show love. Come to find out, to show love is to lay down of yourself all of what you are for the sake of another. For a person who's cold in heart, it takes greater patience, right? No, it doesn't. Anybody who's cold in heart, you still have to wait until they ask you. If you desire out of your heart, you love that person, you desire to assist, the Lord will open a door for you to assist. But it has to be in His timing. Sometimes people can't receive from you from the onset. Sometimes many people have to speak in their lives. Remember this, we have entered into other men's labors. One man can plant a seed, sow a seed. Another may come along and water that seed. It is God that gives the increase. When the increase comes, the seed and the water do their thing. The plant begins to grow, but at the appointed time of the Father only, not our time. In order for you to say, well, I'm losing my patience, that means you're expecting them to grow based upon your time, and you're denying the word of the Lord. You want something to grow on your time. To reverence the Lord is to understand that all things happen in His timing, and therefore patience is no longer a task. See, the only thing I have to have patience for is waiting upon the Lord and the final victory. Do you know why? Because I desire that final victory, thus I have to have patience. But with you, I don't have to exercise patience because I love you. Where love is, patience is no longer necessary because it becomes natural. Patience is part of love. Right? And if a person walk by the Spirit, then they have fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance. And when that happens, things are effective. And it defies the wise. The wise can't figure out, well, how is this working? But the Lord already knows. The one who follows the Lord will adopt things of the Lord. Whatever you follow, you'll adopt from. You will. I can assure you that whatever you spend the most time looking at visually, that's what you're following. Those things you follow enter into the mind, eventually enter into the heart. Whatever you follow becomes part of you. Whatever enters into the heart will soon pour out of the mouth. That's why people mimic when they have responses to people. They sound just like movies, or they sound just like somebody else. Copycats. Why would you want to sound like somebody else? Why would you want to replicate what you've heard in a song or in a movie? Why do you expect your outcome and measure your situation with that of a Hollywood movie, a book, or somebody else's life when you are an individual? How could you ever walk around and say you're too fat or too skinny when you are one of a kind? Why would you get depressed by comparing yourself to anybody? All those things are vanity because they are foolishness. Because of all these things that are simple, when you look into the heavens, there's something even more simple about them. The simplicity is this: all things are made for a purpose. And if all things are made for a purpose, they're going to carry out the command of the Father. If all things carry out the command of the Father, and mankind can only look upon them, they can't figure them out. They still have a purpose, but it's not revealed to mankind yet, which means they are reserved for a specific time. And I'll tell you again, there will come a time when the angels abandon their posts. Who keeps the seasons? Do you know how intricate the weather is? Do you know that the forces in the weather, why the prediction models are only accurate up to a certain time? Because you must be spiritual and understand what the Spirit is doing to understand weather. So what they have done was they have picked up patterns of the weather, right? And every time they do this, they have a good weather model for about 6 months, and then it goes totally down the tubes. Do you know why the weather does more and more strange things? Because mankind keep thinking somehow they have figured it out. They have figured something out. Creation takes another turn. Haven't you noticed that? That's not for them, that's for you. For you to see that even the seasons are under the direction of an angel. By the way, the constants, like pi, would not work for the physical change in reality. I'm telling you now that time is kept. Physics, they're being kept. Things are being carried out all the time. Because you cannot see in the spiritual realm, you think it's something that will be, always will be, and that's how it is. That's the fallacy of evolution. They assume things have always been like this. That's not true. Not true at all. They assume the planets are going to be in their respective orbits. Therefore, they do backtracking to see what the ancients saw. It's not true either. Ladies and gentlemen, there are already maps of the entire globe from long ago. Here's what they won't share with you. Dealing with carbon dating, they found a map that's extremely older than anything they've ever found on the face of the earth. And guess what? All the continents look just like they look now. They don't want to show you that. See, if they showed you that, you would learn that these other places were not places at all, but angelic cities. Angelic cities meaning this world was in chaos prior to God giving it order. Yes, he created all creation, but the earth was void and formless, cloaked in mass darkness and chaos. No order. God separated the waters from the waters. Interesting. It was a water world. That's why they never report to you things under the sea. They would rather you look out into space than look in the ocean. Most of the interesting things are in the ocean, not in space. People are always looking outside the earth for something, but no one to this day can show you a map of the interior of the earth. Why? We've explored so many regions in space. Why has no one explored the core of the earth or inside the earth? They have. They're just not going to tell you. Why would they spend all this money to go into space and not inspect where they are? That'd be foolish, right? Why spend all that money to go into space but not dwell in the oceans? Because they can't tell you what they found. They can't tell you what exists. Because the nature of your being would change, and many of you would be unlocked in the faith. See, if you were to ever find out that angels are truly real, right now it's a thought in your head, and you're doing so by faith. But I'm telling you that if you had physical proof, you would be unlocked. If your faith is unlocked, the devil truly would lose. And according to the word of God, the beast system has to be. Therefore, things will be hidden. If things were not hidden, the beast system could never rise. You would be much too powerful and rooted in faith. It would all be over. So the Lord allows things to be hidden. Because your faith will unlock. If your faith unlocked, you wouldn't need doctors. You wouldn't need anything. You would no longer fall prey to anything of the devil. You would ban him from operation. He would be effectively defeated by you. But then prophecy would not unfold, and so things are hidden. I know one time somebody asked, they said, how are all these things, why is God allowing these things to happen? If you really think about it, here's what's taking place. Because mankind is blinded, evil may do what it wants to do. Because the Christians have little faith. because things are hidden. Satan can sneak around everywhere. The day your faith is unlocked is the day you see the Lord your God coming in the clouds of power and great glory. And that's why you stand, and many will point and say, he is who we waited on. And they will change. Those who believe in him will change into a form that's promised them. Those who don't will instantly know they're condemned. All truth, all love will be back again. God is truth and love. Jesus is all truth and love. Even in his presence, when he comes back again, all truth and love will be known. That means no lie will ever be hidden. A hidden lie would be the dwelling places underneath the ocean, what's inside the earth and everything else, the true makeup of the solar system, the universe, what reality is, what time is. All these things are going to be known because the truth is coming. The truth is coming. Jesus is the way for our salvation. He is the truth. You ever know why they blaspheme the name of God? Is because they desire not to hide who they are anymore. Iniquity and wickedness abound in the last days, in these days. Why? Because people have lost their ability to hide things. Haven't you noticed in your own life, you're not hiding things like you used to? Have you noticed? You're just not hiding them. You're becoming emboldened with who you are. Evil is becoming emboldened with who they are. That's why a lot of homosexuals are now just telling everybody, well, I'm gay. Females and males, they'll say, I'm gay. Why? Because they're no longer hiding it. There are certain people who are corrupted, and they'll say, yeah, I'm corrupted. You should have known that. Why? They're being emboldened. Many of the people in America, they say, well, no, I don't like the government. That's just the way it is. Many of the Republicans are saying, well, we just hate the Democrats and we wish they were dead. And many of the Democrats are saying, well, we hate the Republicans. We wish they were dead. Why? Because they're not hiding things anymore. And then the last days, it was stated that wickedness and iniquity would abound. The love of many would wax cold because iniquity would abound. So many people are going to come out not hiding their true nature. You're going to see who they are. These are the times when those you thought were evil turn out to be good. And those you thought were good are going to turn out to be evil. You're not going to find it out. They're going to tell you. They're going to shout from the rooftops everything they have ever done because they're going to be emboldened to be themselves. Many you thought walked with the Lord are going to tell you, hey, I don't know why I was doing that. I didn't even believe. I just liked the company. There's still pastors who are waking up and telling their churches, well, I hate to tell you this, but I never believed in Jesus. There are a few ministers after 30 years of preaching, that's the conclusion they came to, and they walked away from the church and said, well, sorry I deceived you, but I never believed in Jesus. It's happening already. You know what? That's real news, isn't it? That's real Christian news. But nobody's going to tell that news, will they? They see it as insignificant. I see it as a marker in time. I see it as very significant. I do. When people become emboldened and they know a sin is wrong and they do it anyway and say, well, this is just how I'm going to be and nobody's going to change me, they're becoming emboldened. When you become emboldened like that, you're demonstrating who you actually are. Children of the Lord are full of meekness and humility and truth. They will fight to the last breath, the good fight of faith, but they have humility and meekness. They will become who they are also. They will become emboldened in the truth. And that doesn't mean to force any truth on anybody. That means you'll walk with power. That's what that means. For a Christian to be emboldened is to say very few words and walk with power. You'll do many things without recognition. See, it is the beasts and these three unclean spirits that go out and perform the miracles. The miracles that you see that are about to happen and are happening are done by false spirits. But the Lord said, do your good deeds in secret, that your Father may reward you openly. See, that's a principle. That means When the true Christians heal, the world does not find out. It's a good deed, is it not? And flesh should never be edified. A true Christian knows these things. Jesus, when he did things, he said, don't tell no one I did this. That's what he did. He said, don't tell no one. People are being emboldened. But the nature of things is about to be shown. 7 trumpets, 7 angels, 7 planets, 7 stars, 7 stars. You know, they used to call planets stars. They did. They used to call them stars. There are some simulated configurations of the planets that have raw power in the solar system. But they used to refer to the planets as stars. Just as the Earth's rotation and the equinox and things of that nature let us see what season is upon us. The planets have seasons also. And all of them are going to move. All the planets are going to move, including Earth. All of them. Earth is not going to maintain its orbit. Neither is Mars, Venus, or Mercury. Neither will Jupiter. One day you'll look up, and the moon and 3 others will unmask themselves. That's when fear settles in, because men will find out the moon was there all that time. They'll become fearful because they missed it. It will be almost like you walking down the street and you walk past a bush, but the bush is not a bush. The bush is a person who jumps out at you. You would be scared to death. Why? Because when you knew it was a bush, it was harmless. It couldn't do anything to you. Your imagination wouldn't run away. But when it started moving, if it moved in the darkness and got up off the ground, you would say, oh no, this doesn't make sense. I'm scared to death. Hollywood movies will come back. You think of monsters and everything else. See, mankind has conditioned themselves to think that they're going to be doomed by anything they don't understand, because anything they don't understand becomes a monster that can get them. Hollywood did that to you. They know full well the nature of our solar system is going to change. And that's why it's important that we begin to see all things spiritually, which is to see all things in truth. All things in truth. All things are managed. All things. Did not the Lord give dimensions for a temple? He did, didn't he? The Lord creates. If he gave the dimensions, the plan for the temple, then who designed it? David didn't design it. He was given the design. Based upon that design, many things are made even now to this day. So are the foundations of the world's established through that same design, and people can't figure it out. You wonder why those dimensions in the Bible. Come to find out, those of you who know celestial mechanics and formulas, well, you know the truth of that, but you can never tell it. Because it's discouraged to tell anybody that the dimensions of the temple are the stability factors of life. My goodness. With the dimensions of the temple, the extracted formulas have helped geneticists. See how things can pass a person when they're not thinking in the domain of the Father. Now, we should know the Father creates things. He gave those dimensions, but why? We know that he changes not. that means he has also built other things. So look for his fingerprint and things, and you begin to see him. Because people don't believe he actually created, though they believe he created all things. I know that's ironic, but that's how they think. He created all things. But I believe this evolved. No, it didn't. That's why men are going to walk with shameful faces. They doubted everything. You know, when I was a kid and looked up at the moon, I said, well, you know, that's the weirdest looking thing I've ever seen. It's dirty. That's what I said, the moon is dirty. I bet you somebody older than me said, you're an idiot. That's what I looked at, the moon is dirty. Long time ago in the 60s, they uncovered pieces of something not too long ago. They exploded something in the moon. And you didn't hear about the moon any time since. That's so funny. You didn't hear about it. See, most people, they bring up all these, they tell all these stories to make people look at the topical thing of the moon. The top of the moon is not interesting. The moon itself is not what you think it is. But man is so arrogant. See, if we could build a moon-sized object, then we'd probably look at the moon and say, well, now, somebody designed that one too. But because we can't build a moon-sized object, we say, that's stupid. Nobody can build a moon. That's what we say. Just like the Wright brothers' father said that man would never fly. The Wright brothers? Are you kidding? Don't we have airplanes, or is that an illusion? Is a jetliner a conspiracy? No, it's not. People do fly. Just like they thought asteroids were rocks that were hit by lightning, because nothing falls from the sky. You guys see how that works? Until it's a consensus and people can prove it, it's always not going to be real. But the Lord gave us the truth. Our problem is we weigh everything against the popularity factor. We want public opinion to see if we can believe it or not, because you've been trained to do so. You were made fun of in school when you stood on your own, therefore you're afraid to stand on your own. You find comfort in the masses. I don't find comfort in the masses. What everybody has a consensus on, I have an issue with. When people don't want to believe it, it draws my attention. If everybody believes it, I have an issue with it. The flesh will believe in a falsehood mixed with truth. Spiritual things men do not want to believe in the first place. There will be no consensus about the spiritual truth. The flesh does not do that. Well, folks, I just want to share that with you. Certainly about the planets. Think of that. 8 notable planets. And Earth is one of them. Take away Earth, you have 7. Very interesting. You can, Mayor. Anytime I'm speaking, you can put them up, if you desire to. Very interesting. Jupiter's holding that belt back away from everything. If Jupiter changes, the deadliest debris field will be let loose. It'll be pulled in by the sun, and we're right in its path. Do you guys know that? If something happens to Jupiter, what's going to continue to tug at the asteroid belt? Jupiter keeps the asteroid belt away from us. If something happens to it, the sun's gravity will pull the asteroid belt inward. Men will have heart attacks. And they know for a fact that Jupiter's going to go up and around. It's going around the sun in a very specific orbit. One small influence from something else is going to send it in an elliptical orbit. When that happens, the asteroid belt is going to be loosened at Jupiter's weakest point of gravity. It will impact the Earth. Those scenarios will play out. And you're going to see it with your own eyes. You may not feel the impact, but you're going to see it with your own eyes. There's a larger influence upon the entire solar system. And men's hearts will fail them for looking after those things which are coming upon the earth. And then they will see him coming in the clouds with power and great glory. I don't know about you, but you know what? Today I have salvation. So then today I am secured. I am also at peace. My joy comes from him which is eternal. And I choose him today. That is my peace. My peace is to choose the Lord today. He is my first and my last. He's my first and last. He's the first one that I look to. He is the last, the finality, the victory. He is the last. He's the beginning of me and the end of me. And I'll live my life accordingly. I fully entrust myself to him. That's why I have no fear. I don't have fear about anything, because everything is entrusted to him. When you're aware of that, there's no room for a spirit of fear, because you've entrusted everything to him. He's growing you. You're learning. You're seeing. And times are coming. And he still calls. He still calls. God bless you all. I'm going to take care of some things. Big month this month. Take care of some things. Stay tuned for Pastor Paul. It's coming up next here on COT. God bless you all.